It's the Great Contraction. This is actually week number 2, part 2 of the House of Mirrors. We're looking at the last few days of March 2024 and the first 3 days of April. So it's a week-long report. We'll give you the influence and we'll give you the solution. It's time to go surfing, everybody, and welcome. Here's our influence chart, House of Mirrors Part 2. There's some big energies going on. Of note, it's going to be Mercury station retrograde this week. And then the House of Mirrors is indicated with the Venus and Neptune perfect conjunction, parallel, intensified thing going on there. And that's matched with the I-Ching 50, which is the cauldron. The cauldron is about, like nourishment and whatnot. But when you got change lines 2 and 6, it really makes you need that more, or makes you feel like you want it more. So there's missing things there. And it adds to this House of Mirrors feeling. The Dream Bot has definitely got an Easter connotation, which I'm calling ES6. And ES6 is the energy shift window report that we did, number 6. And that's the defense attorney, the mystical mediator, the savior complex there. And that energy really is coming to light throughout this 2-week period, in my opinion. Then we have in the Dream Bot, definite fighting, wartime. 2023, remember from last week, is gone. 2024 has appeared now. And Jesus has appeared again. Not just that, but that's just part of this Easter thing. And then communication, that's the Mercury retrograde. So it's all in there. Dreambot covers this big circle right in here. It includes some of the planets in Aries. A lot of people wondering, why isn't Aries so much more talked about? And we'll show you that. We'll explain that. It is starting to show up in the Dreambot though. And it's there. It's just not the dominant force yet, because it's about to be, and in a big, big way. All right, let's go ahead and get started. And congratulations to Mystical Muse. What a great handle name. Great report. Thank you. Happy to have found your channel. And Robins have been coming up for me a bunch recently. Me too. And I do appreciate everybody's comments to kind of verify or correct some things. I've got some thick skin, so if I've got some corrections needed to be made, a lot of you do that, and I love it. So thank you all for your contributions. Before we get into the different phases, let's go into the Dreambot really quick. And I think you're going to like this. It seems to be healed again. The Dreambot is back to more normalcy. Number 1 word, shred. Number 2, flash. So there's this kind of shake it up thing. And if that matches with March, sick, loading, facing, and metal. So not a wartime, not nearly as war oriented as the last few Dreambots, but definitely sort of conflicted. And then March is probably the most war of them all, marching to war, or March of the month. But the bigger picture, the more important one, I think, is how about this? The stronger the meme is the red. So spirit, companion, Jesus, temple, James, universe, always began, earth, believe, second. Whenever you have Jesus and second, it's kind of obvious what you're implying there. And also like metal and shred, those two. And I'm not saying that Jesus and second is the same as shred and metal, but those two words go together in those groupings, shredding and metal, like music, metal. And then obviously second coming with Jesus, and that is a direct match to the Easter theme. We would expect to see Easter coming up into this because we're going to have Easter in this week, and the dreams do tend to either come right after the big influence, that's called day residue, or they're precognitive. They typically come, the bigger ones come a couple weeks prior. So there's no surprise that second and Jesus and all these spirit words, it also denotes the influence, the significance of Pisces and the mutable water, because it's very spiritual. It's very, dreamy, but spiritual, religious. So there's another confirmer that Aries isn't quite yet the most dominant influence in the astrology, but it will be, promise you. As indicated by this chart, this is our eclipse cycle. I want you to see where we are here in this week. We're just behind or past the Libra lunar eclipse that was on March 25th, and we're sandwiched between and will end before the next eclipse, the total solar eclipse that everyone's talking about in Aries. And because this is our last little bit with this eclipse cycle, I kind of want to go back and reflect, and I would like to kind of point out the significance of Venus throughout this, and I kind of wished I had thought about doing this, but I never did. It's talking about the journey of Venus throughout this whole process. First of all, she rules this whole eclipse cycle starting on October 14th because she's the ruler of Libra, and Libra, the solar eclipse was in Libra. But she's also the ruler of the next eclipse, and that was the second event in this cycle, was Taurus. And so she ruled both of the first eclipses, and then obviously she had quite a few interesting things happening in between there, and then finally reveals or shuts down this whole cycle with the last full moon is going to be Libra. So we start with Libra, end with Libra, and then started with a solar eclipse and with a lunar eclipse. So that's really cool. And then finally, in this week, she's going to meet with Neptune with a perfect conjunction before she heads off into Aries to kick off our new energy window. Speaking of energy window, we're currently still in the mystical mediator archetype. And we have seen some feedback on these new series of energy windows. ES6 is the one we're currently in from 3/22, March 22nd to 4/4. So that's 4 days prior to the eclipse. On 4/4, Venus goes into Aries, and now the whole energy shifts. But right now, we're still in that mystical space. This is the last of March. There's not really any big changes that we've seen. The big changes are coming up in the latter part of the week, and that's going to be in April. This is April chart. We're going to be on the left side of this dark black vertical line. And so we see some interesting things. We see where's Mercury? First, Mercury is going to go retrograde. That's that red line at the bottom of its bar. And at the similar time, as all that's happening, Venus is going to make that parallel and conjunct with Neptune. And then later on, we'll go into Aries right away in the next CIRF report. In the next CIRF report, we'll have the total solar eclipse in Aries. And then later on, we'll be seeing the full moon in Scorpio, and we'll be exploring all these other charts, lots of inconjuncts. And then keep going down and down. So we went from the 6 month, let's look at that. So we're going for the 6 month cycle, which is going to start over with Aries on April 8th. Then we condense down to the next bigger window is the energy window, which was from that period. Now we're looking at the month. And then we're now looking at the energy chart for just the week. And then we'll talk day by day. That's how we do the astrology. The grand contraction. I think over time you're going to see where this grand contraction is coming from, but it's a definite overlap with the I-Ching 50, line 2 and 6. We'll get to that later. So here's the beginning on Thursday, the 28th. First, starting in Taurus, we have Jupiter and Uranus. These are the runaway bulls in our previous energy window, and they are getting tighter, and they're both, fairly slow planets. So this is a long time in the making. When they finally come together, it'll be the central theme of our gold rush energy window, which a lot of you have seen, but if you haven't, go check out, I think it's ES8. It's called the Gold Rush. And that's post eclipse. So in the energy window of the eclipse, we'll be looking at the rising Phoenix, and that's energy shift video number 7. And speaking of Aries, the rising Phoenix, we have the North Node and Chiron together. So healing is in our future. It's in our destiny. And we do better by healing others. In order to, it's not so that you get yourself healed, but the only way to really heal yourself is to help heal others. That's the whole Chiron concept. And by the end of the week, Sun will be into that North Node, or much closer. And then the big news here on Thursday, the 28th, is Venus and Neptune coming together, starting a conjunction, but not yet parallel with each other. That will happen later, but there's a nice trine to our waning gibbous moon in Scorpio, so very watery, and that starts off our sort of enchanted forest feeling, maybe escapism in relationships. We'll get much more detail as we get closer to that exact point, and I'll give you a cool picture to think of when it's appropriate. But relationships enter the enchanted forest, basically. I want to point out that water is still dominant, and this is the main reason why we still have this energy window that is more focused on Pisces and a little bit of Libra, if you saw that video. The Libra, because of the lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse energy is still reverberating. They say that the eclipse energies last much longer than, say, a full moon or a new moon, and I believe that's true. So we have to consider that as well for the grand contraction. Friday, the 29th, it looks like Mercury is going to speed out of Aries, but is he really going to make it in the days to come? And you already know the answer because he's going retrograde. He won't make it to Taurus just yet. Here's Saturday the 30th. We have 2.5 degrees between Jupiter and Uranus. This will still take another couple of months to mature. And then we have Venus and Neptune already in 3.5 degrees, so it's closing in pretty quick. We have mutable water. And what is the sign that is mutable water? It's Pisces. So the backdrop, the signature of the background, the canvas that we're painting these energies on is Pisces. There's a lot of planets in Pisces, and the background is mutable water. Now we get into Easter. And I put that on the actual influence chart. I didn't. Now, what's bizarre, at least to me, I didn't do any of the energy window considering Easter, and that's bad on me. I just didn't even think about it. So just blew right over. But now that I think about it, what is the energy window? It's mystical mediator, the defense attorney, the renewed justice, because it includes the Libra full moon eclipse. But now we have Easter, and, we have this dialogue between the Christian community saying that the Easter signifies the resurrection, apparently. And then we have the non-Christian or the secular or the pagan saying that the Easter bunny is more representative of spring or fertility. And that's where the origins go. But apparently that goes back to the 13th century. I'm not a historian, so I'm not going to go verses. I'm going to change this to the word and look for the overlap in the two. And the overlap we get is new life. We have a resurrection, but look how this is a direct representative of the energy window archetype. So we called it the savior. So like how much more overlapped and analogous can you get? Now we don't have a whole lot of savior with the rabbit, but if you were to put what is the overlap between these two archetypes, and you'd get new life, regeneration, a second chance. And so I think all of that is very appropriate for our energy window of the mystical mediator. All right, April Fool's Day. We have Mercury going station at 5 a.m. Central Daylight Time. And that'll last about 24 hours. And this is Mercury right here going station at 27 degrees, 12 minutes. He's the exhausted sprinter. And he has sped all the way through here with, we're still in kind of dreaminess with the heavy Pisces and the mutable water background. Even with Sun going into Aries, he was going into Aries under the influence of Neptune. So even the ego, even the Sun, loves going into the firehouse of Aries, but it was under the influence of dreaminess. So Mercury's just racing through here, and now all of a sudden is starting to feel the fatigue, and he's somewhat exhausted. Here's the picture I've got. He just finished a sprint. And so what most of us might feel, maybe a decreased mental agility. We just spent so much fiery thoughts and racing thoughts and really explosive thoughts, and it comes at a cost. So it's a nice breather time, nice time to slow down mentally, tendency to second guess decisions, difficulty maintaining initial enthusiasm that you had for big projects or any projects really, tendency to be more reflective in nature, and that's a perfect overlap to where the moon is. The moon cycle is the waning gibbous, getting us ready, setting us up for the last quarter moon. And then, like I said, 24 hours later, Mercury retrograde is officially beginning, meaning that Mercury is going backwards apparent to Earth. And now we have a malfunctioning GPS. So the devices or the direction is starting, or my sense of direction is being messed with. Maybe like Google showing you the wrong roads. I don't know if you've ever been guided by Google to like drive off a bridge. I have once. That wasn't fun. Of course, I didn't drive off. I turned around, but that's kind of the energy we're talking about. GPS malfunctions. We have difficulty expressing ideas, a tendency to speak before we think. Might have some delays and setbacks in your travel plans. There might be some challenges in your contracts. Negotiations will be a little more difficult because mind and acuity are a lot slower. And we have the last quarter moon on 2nd of April. And this really is a big milestone. So you have two big milestones. You got the Mercury retrograde, but you also have the last quarter moon. The last quarter moon is more appropriate for, well, they're both. They're both the grand contraction. Mercury contributes to the kind of the tumbling of our sense of direction and thinking and slowness there. But the last quarter moon denotes a very special time, our last quarter moon of several different phases. We have the 6-month cycle. We have the 30 or the 29-day lunar cycle that was in Pisces. That's ending. It's all ending at once. We also have, it just so happens the time it lines up also is the energy window. The end of the energy window is very close to this last quarter moon as well. So it's an introspective time to look back at all these cycles and to get introspection, to get meaning and learning. And what are you going to take with you from all these periods of time that are ending? And then Wednesday, last day of our week, this is where we enter the enchanted garden. Well, we were already there, but it really gets to a climax. And this is at 8:10 a.m. on 3rd of April. Venus conjunct Neptune and Venus parallel Neptune. So it's an extremely intensified conjunction. And so it is a total fantasy. It's a lush, ethereal garden. Every step leads deeper into the realm of magic and beauty. We have boundless imagination, and we have idealistic expectations for relationships. Very dreamy sense here. It just contributes to this grand contraction feeling. And then escapism feelings might kick in, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Heightened sensitivity and empathy, especially towards others. Increased desire for romantic and even spiritual connection. We can idealize love and love interests and romantic situations. The blurring of boundaries between fantasy and reality. Increased desire to merge or lose oneself in another. Okay. Maybe even self-sacrificing in relationships might go on hyperdrive. We might escape on self-sacrificing. We might escape with our lover. We might escape to a lover. Be mindful to the tendency to idealize others and their situations. Take care not to lose yourself completely in another person. Oh, and here's the picture. Here's the last day of our CIRF week and the last day of the energy window. Venus and Neptune. All right, ready for the I-Ching? We have the cauldron, Hexagram 50, symbolizes nourishment and rejuvenation. But when you add line 2 and 6 in there, you get strong feelings for that. Potential instability or lack of firmness in your current foundation or nourishment levels. Or a sense that the abundance or security you're experiencing is not fully solid or lasting. So there's this transitoriness. So you can and then when you put in the position 6 or the line 6, the underlying dissatisfaction or longing for something more. And then despite the overall feeling of fullness, there may be a sense that something is still missing or unfulfilled. And if you put all these things together, you put the astrology together, you get the grand contraction. You get the ending of the cycles, put everything together, get the grand contraction. So the key points from the I-Ching is the changing lines introduce an element of flux or transition. The stability and abundance of Hexagram 50 is not as firmly established as you might wish. All right, before we get to the solution, let's show you and summarize the influence. The grand contraction. Get ready for part 2 of the House of Mirrors. This week initiates the concluding phase of the 29-day Pisces lunar cycle, which is also the concluding phase of the 6-month Libra eclipse cycle and the conclusion of energy window number 6, ES6. As you'll see in the solution, we need to proceed with caution as the House of Mirrors feeling is perpetuated by Mercury retrograde, Venus-Neptune intensified conjunction, and continued echoes of the recent lunar eclipse. It's the grand contraction. All right, with that, let's proceed to the solution. And because the solution is my personal favorite part of these CIRF reports, but I think the most essential, it's going to be sponsored by our LifeWave store. We have products, the National Dream Center and Intervention, the producers of this show, have a store, a LifeWave store. And these are amazing products. I've been wearing X39 and related patches for 2 years with really good results. In my opinion, X39 elevates the peptides known to enhance stem cell activity and reset genes to a younger and healthier state. It does that by cellular repair, relief of minor aches and pains, wound healing, and I like the energy, inflammatory response, and the better sleep. So if you are interested, you can get a free personal health consultation. Text my assistant Maria at 864-809-8311. She will schedule your appointment and assure that you receive my wholesale pricing. But what's more about Maria, she's got not just a pleasant demeanor, she can answer all your questions. She's also a surfer. She's in our surf community, so very fun to talk to and knows her stuff. So give her a text. All right, guys, thanks. All right, the solution, 62, attention to detail. Ambitious undertakings are not in order, but attention to small matters brings decent progress. This is starting to sound like a broken record, but did we expect anything different based on the energy window? Well, we have these suggestions. Basically, embrace simplicity, proceed with caution, and nurture your relationships. That's the Venus and Neptune in there as well. Place importance on building and maintaining healthy, supportive relationships. All right, now I'm going to put the tropical focus point. That's our Mercury station. It's probably the biggest energy this week, although it's could arguably have easily been the Venus and Neptune conjunction, but I picked the Mercury station. That's hexagram 3 of the rave, and it gives us sidereal Pisces. So hexagram 3 is difficulty at the beginning. That's pretty cool because this is going to be close to the eclipse location. Don't quite know where exactly the rave is going to be, where the eclipse is going to be in the rave, but we will know in the next CIRF report. And line 1 says difficulties can only overcome when all pertinent factors have been analyzed. An innate knowing that order will emerge from confusion. So here's the way I assess this. You're going to have especially after the Mercury station, after Mercury retrograde begins, you'll have a limited ability to carry out this analyzing the pertinent factors command here. So I think the best thing to take away from this rave line is to understand that confusion is natural and must always exist before clarity can be achieved. It's basically just realizing that confusion is not something that we have to, fix right away. And there's something that's really grand about confusion, is to know that it's going to produce order and clarity. All right. Now let's get back to our solution slide. And we have the rave mandala, analyze the factors, just read that. We have attention to detail. Do you see the overlap there? It's basically saying the same thing. And then we have the last quarter moon, and we have sidereal Pisces, and these two are very similar. It's sort of the ending, if you will. So what's the overlap? For the second week in a row, slow down. That is the overlap across all of these. The one overlap that is similar for every one of these is slow down. Continue to pay attention and proceed with caution. This is the House of Mirrors. This doesn't mean to live in fear, but try to avoid lunging impulsively forward or taking on big projects, or making key negotiations if you can. Behaviorally, move slowly, methodically, and purposefully. Your focus this week should be in the mental realms. Move into confusion or confusing matters or contradictory areas and analyze the various factors with Piscean idealism, the way it should be, interconnectedness, and compassion. Don't be afraid of confusion, as this is a necessary condition towards clarity. The last quarter moon invites you to self-analyze, to fully extract life lessons over the next two, or the two ending cycles, actually 3 ending cycles. The eclipse cycle, the 30-day lunar cycle, and the energy window, all closing down. What did you learn from these periods? What keys will you take forward in life? And then finally, because it's the last quarter moon, use your Pisces skills to refresh, rejuvenate, and relax. All right, let's go off to our runes, brought to you by Intervention Therapy. And I didn't change a thing because it's still appropriate. We have the 2 runes that I feel represent this last eclipse cycle, Libra cycle. That's the Gebu. This is more of the inner harmony or the exterior harmony with others, partnerships, diplomacy. And the Kanaz is the balancing aspect, and also some would argue, the exterior view, how people view you, and beauty and shining your light and that sort of thing. I close out this Libra cycle inventorying my best Libra skills that I've improved over the last 6 months. It's very important you do that this week, especially at the last quarter moon. And as you prepare for the next new moon, which is also a total solar eclipse in Aries. And I've got a whole host of very different things to do then. But for now, relax, take it slow, get your energy levels high, reflect on the last 6 months, extract the biggest points especially of the Libra context and skill sets that you can proceed with. Some that maybe you've gotten rid of that were too excessive or too much or not helpful. You can get rid of those and keep the helpful ones, the ones that you've mastered, or the ones that you've improved. And with that, I will leave you with how about just the summary slide? Here we are, House of Mirrors, the Grand Contraction. It's amazing to me how the energy window is really very apparent in the outside world, but also in things like the Easter. And I didn't even consider the Easter thing. So it's all kind of coming together and making sense. Big changes coming up, folks. Next CIRF report won't be anything like this. And so take care of yourselves. Get your energy levels high. Relax. Take it slow. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.